Thank you for joining us. Our webinar today will be about FirstMatch, a solution that was created to help our system manage the reentry, program completion challenges, and recidivism challenges that we all know are present in our child welfare, behavioral health, and juvenile justice fields. So today's presentation is about using data, predictive analytics, and machine learning to improve the outcomes of the youth that we serve. Our presenters will be myself, Sean Peck, Vice President of FirstMatch, Sue Christner, Deputy Director of Lebanon County Juvenile Probation Services, and Stacy Wellman, FirstMatch Implementation Specialist. So what exactly is FirstMatch? FirstMatch is an intelligent application powered by a trained algorithm that compares the predictive factors of the referral to the historical outcomes achieved by unique programs for youth that presented with the same or similar predictive factors. The FirstMatch model produces a report for the courts or the placement decision maker to inform them of the best decision for that youth. FirstMatch will reveal a specific provider's ability to deliver services to a particular youth. It considers factors of the program as well as the youth. It won't decide if a youth should or should not receive care. It works to evaluate a program as the sum of its parts. FirstMatch was created to allow various agencies the opportunity to reduce the number of youth requiring multiple out-of-home placements within the juvenile justice and child welfare systems. In our system today, 66% of youth in out-of-home placements have already been in one or more placement. 44% of youth in out-of-home placements have been in 2 or more previous placements. These statistics exclude shelter and detention. Recently, the Pennsylvania Juvenile Justice Task Force found similar statistics. When excluding detention and shelter facilities, youth average 2 placements at residential facilities, with roughly 1 in 4 kids sent to 3 or more residential placements. The task force also found that youth removed from their homes spent over 3 years under court supervision, and that 1 in 4 youth spent 4 years or longer under court supervision. So not only are youth spending an alarming amount of time out of their home due to cycling through multiple placements, but those same youth are spending a significant amount of time under court supervision. When youth cycle through multiple placements, we know it has a significant impact on their social, emotional, and physical well-being. Unnecessary and repetitive placements result in a youth spending more time away from their families and communities. The disruption to those family and societal bonds can result in a youth developing an institutionalized mentality, which would make their transition back into their community less likely to be successful. Youth inevitably experience more trauma when cycling through placements, hindering the efforts of true trauma-informed practices. Their physical and mental health may be affected, their education is interrupted, special education needs may not be immediately recognized, and credit transfer issues are not uncommon for youth moving from placement to placement. And finally, multiple placements are costly to the system. So then, why do youth need to be placed in so many programs before they have a positive outcome? And with all the positive steps the field has made in quality of programming, why are we still producing outcomes like this? It's because there's a glaring fundamental flaw in the system that's holding us back from achieving the outcomes that we all hope to produce. This flaw is creating an environment where youth are matched to the right program the first time only 34% of the time. There are 3 key areas in which the system falls short of using data to inform decision making. Let's explore why youth are matched to the right program the first time only 34% of the time. Placement decision makers across the country shared they typically rely on the following drivers to inform their placement decisions: information about the youth, such as the risk assessment scores, clinical assessments, family dynamics, and treatment history. Other factors influence the referral process, such as proximity to home, past experiences, relationships with providers, macro-level outcomes, and anecdotal information, contract status, cost, and bed availability. Taking those few objective factors, such as the youth's risk assessment and many subjective factors into account, the decision maker then selects what they believe is the most appropriate fit of the available providers. There are three key areas in which the juvenile justice system falls short of using data to inform decision-making. Agencies are already collecting data for various purposes. However, that data is rarely used to inform practices. This could be due to a lack of resources dedicated to maintain those data collection systems, or a vague understanding of how agency data can be used to improve outcomes. Many agencies are also very limited in their ability to identify any patterns or trends in their data due to the volume and variety of data being collected. Essentially, the data isn't being used to inform policy or practices because it is not proactive or prescriptive in any way. The data being collected is compartmentalized and only viewed through one lens at a time. Our system has always had difficulty operationalizing the data that is available in the youth coming into our programs. We've not had a good way of operationalizing that data to drive program selections. In other words, most providers collect data on the youth going through their program, and they also collect data about their programs and services, but that data is not analyzed or studied in a way that gives equal attention to both the youth's unique factors and the program's historical ability to be successful with youth presenting with similar factors. Agencies typically get information or data on a youth in silos for things such as risk assessments, clinical evaluations, and trauma screenings. Those assessments are important, though they are often only viewed independent of each other. So because data isn't analyzed in a way to inform our decision-making processes at an individual youth level, we as a system are left with using macro-level outcomes to inform micro-level placement decisions. An example of a macro-level outcome would be 75% of youth who go to Program A successfully complete the program. So Youth 1 is placed in Program A because 75% of youth who go to Program A successfully complete the program. That sounds logical, right? What about the 25% of youth in Program A who don't successfully complete that program? What do those youth have in common that may be leading to unsuccessful completion? Why aren't they successfully completing the program? And if those youth are unable to complete Program A successfully, which program should we send them to? So how do we know if this youth is part of that 25%? Should we take a chance and send them to Program A anyway? And is there a scientific way of predicting which program would have the highest likelihood of success with this particular youth? The answer is yes. FirstMatch can analyze data about the youth and the program to make predictions about the likelihood the youth would be successful or unsuccessful in each particular program. In this example, FirstMatch may reveal that Youth 1 would have actually only had a 10% chance of completing Program A, but would have had an 80% chance of successfully completing Program B. So let's look at the referral process again. Information concerning the youth is still imperative to make an informed placement decision, but now we can add in the historical outcomes of the provider. The FirstMatch tool makes a structured decision based on both the youth information and program outcomes. That information is provided to the placement decision maker, and they're able to make an informed decision regarding the placement of that youth. Other factors such as cost, bed availability, proximity to home, past experiences, contract status may come into play, but the decision maker is now armed with data to support their selection of programming for a particular youth. However, getting the match correct between the youth and the program isn't the only variable in the success equation. Quality of programming is of equal importance. The system spends a lot of time, effort, energy, and money investing in quality of programming. That's a great place to make an investment, and that work is imperative to improve youth outcomes. So let's talk about how FirstMatch was developed. To create the FirstMatch model, Adelphi brought in a team of external researchers and data scientists. The researchers conducted a literature review to identify potential predictive factors associated with achieving the desired outcome, such as successful completion and remain out of care. The data scientists then used their identified predictive factors and other information commonly available at the point of referral to build out a data set. The model then measures a youth's predictive factors against a program's historical ability to successfully treat youth presenting with similar predictive factors. The logic model of FirstMatch is as follows. A program is required to use a consistent treatment routine with a high degree of fidelity over a long period of time. When this occurs, the program will demonstrate the ability to repeat and replicate its outcomes. When a program has an established clinical model that is consistently applied to its treatment population, then that program will produce more consistent outcomes than those that do not have established clinical protocols. The program can then identify the difference between the population that consistently achieves positive outcomes and the population that consistently achieves negative outcomes. When this occurs, the program is capable of identifying its target population. When the program has identified its target population, it can more accurately predict the outcomes of a referral. When a service provider knows the degree to which they can be successful with a referral, they can share that information with the program decision maker. The program decision maker is then equipped to make a data-driven decision. Implementation begins with expressing interest, which is followed by assessing readiness. Information is gathered and organized to build the tool. User training is provided before data is entered. This process takes between 4 and 6 months. It takes 12 to 16 months for model training, which is necessary for predictions. Performance analytics will become useful as data is entered into the dashboards. The final step of implementation is validation and maintenance, which takes approximately 16 to 24 months. Some barriers to implementation include limited or unknown data at the time of referral, the availability of outcome data, the accuracy of data being used to inform the model, and poor program fidelity or consistency in programming.
Hi, I'm Sue Christner, and I'm the Deputy Director at Lebanon County Juvenile Probation Services. FirstMatch, as you've learned so far, is a pretty complex concept. The FirstMatch recipe helps break down the components of the tool in simpler terms. The FirstMatch recipe is a unique combination of both macro-level and micro-level data. The recipe starts with the use predictive factors, for example, the number of prior treatment placements and level of aggression, as well as structured decision-making tools such as risk assessments, trauma screens, and clinical evaluations available at the time of referral. These things alone are helpful in the referral process, but the FirstMatch tool has the ability to analyze all of this use information as a complete package. The use information is then added to the historical outcomes of the program, meaning how successful or unsuccessful the program has been with youth presenting with the same combination of predictive factors. The youth information and historical outcomes of the program are put into the FirstMatch tool. The tool then uses machine learning and a trained algorithm to quickly sort through and identify patterns and trends in the current youth's referral information. The end result is a report indicating the likelihood scores of the youth achieving certain outcomes based on their unique predictive factors and the program's historical data. This fosters a collaborative partnership between the referral source and the placement or provider while preserving an objective, data-driven decision-making process. The FirstMatch tool requires both predictive factors and outcomes in order to train an algorithm to produce likelihood scores. Predictive factors are the unique characteristics about a youth that are collected as part of the referral process. These factors are discussed and decided upon during the FirstMatch implementation process, and some factors may vary from agency to agency. It is important to note that all chosen predictive factors may not be identified by the tool as predictive. However, an agency or provider may want to continue collecting data on those factors for a variety of reasons: for quality assurance purposes, to identify and observe certain trends, or to justify the need for additional service types. Here are some examples of predictive factors other agencies have used in their tool. Again, these are customizable and can be decided upon during the implementation process. Outcome measures are used to train and retrain the model to become more refined and accurate. During the implementation process, the FirstMatch team will work with the agency to determine the outcome measures the agency wants to use in their tool. Each agency may choose a variety of outcomes based on their own goals and objectives. However, most will be similar due to the comparative nature of the tool. Program completion and remain out of care, usually at the 1-year mark, are common desired outcomes. At the point of discharge, the FirstMatch user will go back into the tool and record the youth's program completion status as either successful or unsuccessful. At 1 year post-discharge, or whatever point in time the provider decides upon, they enter the remain out of care outcome. Agencies may want to look at risk reduction, recidivism, or other outcomes their service is intended to achieve. FirstMatch is unique in that it can be customized to meet the needs of an organization. Additional predictive factors and desired outcomes can be introduced and trained into the model to account for jurisdictional variances and the information available at the point of referral.
Hi, my name is Stacy Wellman, and I'm an implementation specialist with the FirstMatch team. How exactly does FirstMatch predict a youth's likelihood of success? As Sean stated earlier, FirstMatch is an intelligent application which uses machine learning and a trained algorithm to identify patterns and trends in data to make predictions about the future. Before we get into how the FirstMatch model works, let's define two concepts you've already heard several times throughout this webinar: machine learning and an algorithm. Machine learning, in general, is a branch of artificial intelligence and computer science which focuses on the use of data and algorithms to imitate the way humans learn, typically based on a set of past decision-making examples and gradually improving in accuracy. Machine learning is commonplace for things like recommendations, predictions, and looking up information. An algorithm, in the most general sense, is a series of instructions telling a computer how to transform a set of data into useful information. It is a precise, step-by-step series of rules, similar to a recipe, that leads to a product or solution to a problem. FirstMatch uses an algorithm to predict the likelihood of a desired outcome being achieved within the juvenile justice field. Machine learning is utilized in virtually every field or industry and is growing rapidly. For example, the healthcare field is using machine learning to predict breast cancer recurrence based on medical records and images. Child welfare, in particular foster care agencies, are using machine learning to predict whether or not children exiting foster care are achieving high permanency placements. The FirstMatch tool uses machine learning and a trained algorithm to predict the likelihood a youth will achieve a desired outcome. The tool does not remain static, but learns and refines its ability to accurately predict and match as users enter youth predictive factors and outcomes. The tool also adjusts and self-corrects as conditions, variables, and programs change and evolve. The FirstMatch model uses a decision tree framework to make predictions. When a referral with the youth's unique predictive factors gets entered into the FirstMatch tool, the model will sort through all available data and outcomes to answer the following questions. First, which group of kids does this referral look most like based on their predictive factors? And second, what is the program's likelihood of achieving the desired outcomes with this particular referral or youth? The tool will then produce a score indicating that youth's likelihood of achieving each desired outcome. At any given point in time, the data in the model falls into one of three sets of data. The first set includes information about the youth who went through a program and achieved the desired outcome. So, for example, these youth successfully completed the program. The second set of data includes information about the youth who went through a program and did not receive the desired outcome. For example, these youth did not successfully complete the program. And the third set of data is the unique information about the youth being referred to the program. The three sets of data are used to make a prediction about the likelihood a youth will achieve the desired outcome. Each time a referral or outcome is entered into the FirstMatch tool, the machine learning and algorithm work to improve the tool's capabilities. When outcome data is entered, the tool becomes more refined in its ability to make accurate predictions. The most up-to-date data will constantly be informing and training the model. Agencies involved with FirstMatch can choose to use historical data if available to accelerate the process of training their model to make predictions. If historical data is unavailable, then current and future data would be utilized. FirstMatch is a model capable of making predictions based on historical outcomes. Therefore, it is critical to assess the accuracy and reliability of any data going into the tool. The FirstMatch team works closely with agencies and organizations implementing FirstMatch, as well as third-party data scientists to identify any inequities in data and to ensure the tool is running as objectively as possible. As previously identified, managing the data going into and being produced by the model is critical to the integrity of the tool and the information it provides to referral sources. Therefore, limits are placed on how long data is allowed to influence the model. And there is a process by which the data is weighted. The older data becomes less influential and eventually falls off the back. We don't want 2- or 3-year-old data to influence predictions we are making today. Managing the data is imperative because programs change over time. They experience program drift, staff turnover, and other workplace ebbs and flows. We want to ensure the tool is being trained on the most current conditions of the program. Because of the sensitive nature of the data being entered into the FirstMatch tool, we have a variety of security measures in place. FirstMatch is HIPAA compliant. Users of the tool have access to their own data through a cloud-based server, and the server is protected by a firewall. Next, we'll take a look at the FirstMatch tool and features. There are 2 methods the FirstMatch tool can be deployed. The first method is ideal for residential programs. The referral source sends referral information to the residential program or programs, who will then enter the information into their FirstMatch tool. Each residential program will send a FirstMatch report back to the referral source for consideration. The referral source will compare the FirstMatch reports from residential programs and will be able to make a more informed decision. The second method of deployment is ideal for use with localized, community-based, and in-home services. The referral source, such as a juvenile probation department, would enter the youth information into their own FirstMatch tool and receive a report or several reports by which they can make an informed decision. The referral source would own their own tool. This is possible because the programs being utilized in community-based settings typically only serve one jurisdiction's youth, and the referral agency, such as a probation department, has access to the data and predictive factors that are needed to make the referral. Users of the FirstMatch tool will enter youth's information into various data entry screens. You can see here an example of what the data entry screen looks like. These are screens where the youth's predictive factors get entered directly into the tool. Predictive factors and answer selections can vary and are customizable. Validated risk assessment scores can also be entered into the tool as predictive factors. Upon entering the referral into the FirstMatch tool, the user will immediately receive a FirstMatch report. The FirstMatch report is an auto-generated narrative that recommends a particular program in the provider's ecosystem. It indicates the likelihood the youth will achieve the desired outcome or outcomes. This report can be presented to the courts or decision maker for consideration as part of the recommendations for programs or services. The court or decision maker can then make a placement decision informed by the FirstMatch reports received from each provider. They don't have to make a placement decision based on the tool's recommendation, but they'll at least be informed by what the historical data and outcomes have been for youth who presented with the same or similar predictive factors. The FirstMatch report template is editable to a certain extent, Adjustments can be made to content, font selection, sizing, color, and program logo. Dashboards are a unique feature of the FirstMatch tool and are available to maximize the use of existing data. Dashboards show in real time how well the provider is performing compared to their model's predictions, and they help the service provider and placing agency optimize program selection by informing all parties which program is the most effective for the youth or population in need of service. Here's an example of the dashboard screen. Dashboard features are customizable dependent on the data available. This graphic shows the total number of referrals this program received, 953. It then breaks down those referrals into 4 categories: the number of youth who were accepted and placed in green, accepted but not placed in blue, rejected in orange, and still pending in yellow. You can also see search by date ranges and slicers for referral status, referral source, and locations. Dashboards can be used to visually represent real-time program analytics. This dashboard allows the users to see the total number of youth who were accepted and placed into the program compared to their selected outcome measures. Program completion is shown on the left, and remained out of care is on the right. Dashboards can show occupancy rate, replacement rates, and average lengths of stay. And there are basic youth demographic charts with fillers and slicers available to help the user sift through their data. Market analysis and customer trend graphs are available and can be sorted by referral source. The most unique feature of the FirstMatch dashboards are the prediction tool analytics and calibration graphs. These graphs represent the actual outcomes a program achieves versus the tool's predicted outcome. These graphs reveal how accurately the tool is making predictions. The user would have a separate graph similar to this one for each outcome measure being tracked. This graph is looking at program completion as the outcome measure. Ideally, the user would want to see a 45-degree angle, which indicates the actual outcome is what the tool predicted. If actual outcomes differ significantly from predicted outcomes, the user would want to investigate further. These graphs are essential for fidelity monitoring and are available in real time.
The utilization of the FirstMatch tool has implications on various aspects of the juvenile justice system. As we mentioned earlier in the logic model, we want to identify the target population. This tool helps to increase the number of youth in a program that align with that program's target population and to decrease the number of youth that don't match with the target population. This leads to several benefits for the youth. Specifically, a greater likelihood of a positive outcome earlier in their system involvement, the youth will align with the program's targeted population, and the youth will be more likely to achieve the desired outcome. The youth will be less likely to AWOL, be involved in restraints, and engage in other behaviors commonly associated with an unsuccessful placement. These occurrences often lead to deeper system involvement for the youth and are discouraging for both the youth and family. The youth will experience less trauma as a result of being placed in the right program the first time, allowing them to spend more time in their community and with their families. And they will be less likely to become entrenched in the juvenile justice system, cycling through multiple placements. FirstMatch assists probation departments in making informed, consistent, and effective decisions through a process that is less subjective, more objective, and with an emphasis on fundamental fairness. Performance measurement helps us move from accidental involvement to purposeful planning by refining our processes through the utilization of data. The CQI cycle is a fluid process of continuous planning, implementation, and assessment to achieve desired outcomes. FirstMatch mirrors the CQI cycle and provides a mechanism for data collection and assessment that can assist departments in identifying service gaps and resource needs in real time to inform decisions impacting policy and practice. The FirstMatch tool takes into account the youth's risk, needs, and responsivity as identified by a validated risk assessment. The FirstMatch tool will analyze risk factors such as age at first arrest and number of prior arrests, needs of the youth such as lack of family involvement, temperament and impulsivity, and responsivity factors such as maturity and cognitive ability. Uniquely, the FirstMatch tool also takes into account the provider's characteristics, to include the clinical milieu, such as location and staff culture, duration and dosage, and service fidelity. Duration and dosage targets are assumed to have been met each time a youth reaches the desired outcome, which is indicative of the fidelity model for each intervention and service. Fundamental fairness refers to the idea that youth presenting with similar circumstances are treated in a similar way. FirstMatch ensures the youth's predictive factors are analyzed with the same scientific process using the most up-to-date and relevant data available. The visual on this slide depicts equal versus fair. The picture on the left side is equal, and the picture on the right side is fair. FirstMatch takes into account youth's unique characteristics to make a fair decision, with the understanding that some programs and providers work better with certain youth than others. The tool seeks the best matched program for that specific youth while eliminating any subjective influences. Additionally, FirstMatch will assist juvenile justice professionals in mitigating racial and ethnic bias in decision-making through fundamental fairness at several crossroads within the juvenile justice system. As we know, there are several statistics indicating large disparities in the outcomes youth experience when they are involved in the juvenile justice system. For example, Black male youth stay under probation supervision the longest, averaging 42 months. FirstMatch adds that layer of structured decision-making at critical junctions within the juvenile justice system. This includes diversion, community-based interventions, and out-of-home placements, ultimately allowing for more informed, consistent, and data-driven decisions. The goal is to eliminate bias through the use of a structured decision-making tool such as FirstMatch at each one of those critical intersections. FirstMatch users will be positioned to view their data from a racially sensitive lens and will be informed of disparities that may have existed in any historical data. They will then be able to work towards more inclusive internal policies, protocols, and guidelines to reduce any future or continued bias. FirstMatch can be used to combat the underutilization of diversion alternatives. We know diversion is underutilized despite its success, as diversion from court is more than 80% successful. However, most written allegations don't lead to diversion, even for those scoring as low risk to recidivate. FirstMatch has the potential to inform probation departments which diversion program or option is best suited for each youth based on their predictive factors and historical outcomes by analyzing which youth completed the diversion program successfully and if the youth penetrated deeper into the system. The Pennsylvania Juvenile Justice Task Force found that 43% of youth placed on probation in 2018 were a low risk to recidivate, and 40% of youth were sent to placement on their first written allegation. FirstMatch, a resource previously unavailable to juvenile justice professionals, provides a scientific approach to catch those missed opportunities for diversion. Service providers utilizing FirstMatch benefit from the ability to focus on their target population who have historically demonstrated success within the program. They can monitor fidelity of their services in real time and can identify gaps in the services provided to youth in both residential and community-based settings. FirstMatch users then have an opportunity to communicate more effectively with referral sources regarding service availability and outcome expectations. FirstMatch allows providers the opportunity to identify service gaps and resources needed for the population of youth with complex cases. The primary purpose of the tool is to increase the likelihood of an appropriate match and identify providers that do demonstrate a historical ability to adequately serve a particular youth. Complex cases are becoming the norm in the juvenile justice system. Being informed of a youth's likelihood to complete a program or remain out of care before they even begin the service sets realistic expectations of success for the provider, probation, and the juvenile court. It also provides an opportunity to identify and implement additional program supports in anticipation of the existing special needs. Additionally, FirstMatch is able to analyze the data of complex cases in such a way that patterns and trends may emerge concerning their common characteristics, which is imperative for planning at the county and state levels. FirstMatch users, providers, and decision makers can get ahead of emerging trends by identifying and developing services for these cases now in anticipation of their need in the future. There are several other benefits counties and state systems will experience, such as a decrease in reentry and recidivism rates for justice-involved youth, which in turn will reduce caseloads and the likelihood of staff turnover and burnout. Staff will be working with youth who have historically had the most success in their program or service. There is a reinvestment opportunity to identify resource gaps and align services to ensure all youth have the best opportunity to be successful. Just a 7% reduction in the number of kids who require a second placement would produce a $30 million annual savings. So there's a financial benefit in making sure we're matching youth with the right program the first time. This is an opportunity to reinvest in prevention and diversion programming or to improve the quality of programming.
Lastly, we want to share where FirstMatch is being implemented with both service providers and county agencies. Several residential programs are currently involved in the implementation process. One residential program utilizing the tool has seen prediction accuracy increase from 66 to 86%. We have several PA County juvenile probation departments involved in the implementation process, and they intend to use the tool in partnership with their diversion, community-based, and in-home service programs. There are various stakeholders which are imperative to the use and success of the FirstMatch tool. Some stakeholders will be users, while others will strictly benefit from the implementation of FirstMatch. There is a lot of interest within other fields to utilize the FirstMatch tool. In simplest terms, FirstMatch will reveal through data whether or not programs are effective. Those services that are effective will be validated by data, and those that are not will inform practices. Service gaps will be identified, and in collaboration with placing agencies and service providers, resources can be allocated to ensure all youth the opportunity to be successful the first time or this time, at any level of involvement with the child welfare, behavioral health, and juvenile justice fields. Before we take any questions, I'd like to thank Sue for presenting with me and Stacy. I'd also like to thank you for attending our webinar. Our contact information is here, and I'll be happy to set up a meeting to further discuss FirstMatch. Please type in any questions you have in the chat box. Karen Pratt, Vice President of Marketing, is going to field the questions. Thank you again.